Hello guys, thank you for subscribing to my channel. We are already with over 700 now. I appreciate your interest in the channel and continue to make interesting videos about game development. Today we will see how you can create a cave in Unity. The terrain editor by default doesn't support building caves. Also, the terrain textures are only rendered when looking down on it, so you cannot create an upside down terrain. But fortunately there are alternatives. There are tools to convert terrain into a mesh that you can put upside down. You can also create a cave mesh in a tool like Blender. But in this video we will use what I think is the most easy. Okay, let's use this mountain area to create a cave over here. First thing I'm gonna do is lower the terrain. Gonna set the height to about 40, that's about ground level in this place. I'm using set height because I want to create a steep slope. This way it already looks like a cave. But of course there is no cover yet. So it's like an open cave. Okay, let's remove that detail over there. Oh. Let's also remove the details in this area. We're gonna create a path over here in the future that leads to the cave. And we could smoothen it a little bit. So we have a nice smooth entrance into our cave. But now comes the big problem. Unity terrain editor doesn't allow to create terrains that are upside down. But let's create a terrain anyway. We're creating a second terrain, so we have this big terrain over here, and we create a small terrain for the cave. So let's go to the terrain editor. Create a terrain, let's say 100 and 100. The terrain has been created over here, even with a new terrain group. Actually, I can use the old terrain group, so just put it in here. And let's position the terrain in the right place. It's now over here at 0. But I've put our player already near the place where the cave should be. So we can copy this position and paste it into the terrain's position. Okay, so now it's in the right place. And let's create some hills on this terrain. There are different ways to do that, but let's just raise the terrain like this. Okay, we can make it a little bit more beautiful later, but for now at least we have a hilly terrain. And also let's put already some texture on there. Still need to create the texture layers, but I already have a grass layer over here, so let's add this. Okay, so now we have this terrain, and we can put it on top of the cave, like so. But you can see that from this side you can watch through it. You can. It's only opaque from this side, and it's transparent from this side. And if we try to flip it, you will see that it's still invisible at the bottom. So it's always rendered only when watched from above and not when watched from below. So the upside down way to create a cave is not working, but we can use this part as the top of the cave. And let's also put a bottom in so that we can't see through it from this side, because we're gonna walk underneath it in the cave. So let's add a cube, and let's make this 100 and 100. Put it in the right spot. Make it even a bit thinner. Okay, so now we can see through the bottom of the terrain. Let's also put some material on there that looks like the top of a cave. So when I take a look at the normal terrain, we got the texture layers over here, and for example this could be the top. So I've got these pebbles and this texture, so I can put that on here. Actually, let's create a material for it that's more nice. We can also use the normal map then to give it a bit of depth. You can see now how it looks like at this point. But let's create a material for it. Call it matte cave. Okay, let's copy this name. This is the normal map. Okay, you see the difference now. It's more like a bit of depth in there. Also, let's set the tiling. Okay, this could be like the top of the cave, seen from this side. If we now put everything in place, you will notice we have like a cave. We should actually change this landscape a bit. It's now too detailed compared to these mountains. Should rather have one big mountain or something. But apart from that, if you look inside the cave, it looks like this. It's not really natural. This top is way too flat. So we want to have like a same kind of structure like on top over here, a little bit at least. Some hilly structure. And there are several ways to realize that. One way is to turn the terrain into a texture. There are certain tools that can change this terrain and make it into a mesh. And then we can just flip it over so it's upside down, and then you can use that as a top. But I'm not sure if that tooling is free and how easy it is to use. So let's take an even more simple approach. We'll just download the a mesh from some free website and use that for the bottom part. I found this model of a terrain on Sketchfab. It's called Quick Terrain Test. It looks decent. It has some hills, just like I want. And this could be like the top of the cave. We can also check the number of triangles. It's not too much, so it's a good candidate for using as a top of the cave. Now I found this model of a terrain on Sketchfab. It's called Quick Terrain Test. It has some hills, and this could be the top of the cave. We can also check the number of triangles. It's not too much, so it's a good candidate for creating the top of the cave. So let's go back to our cave structure. Let's put it a little bit over here, and let's find that model that I downloaded. Okay, let's go back to our cave. Let's put it over here and take the new terrain. It's pink, it doesn't render yet because there's no material. But that's no problem, we want to use our own material anyway and not the material of the cave. So, of this model I mean. So let's go to the material that I created earlier on. Okay, now we have like this structure. At this moment it's way too big, but we can scale it down, of course. And let's also make that part of the cave structure. So let's call it cave. And now it's just a matter of scaling and putting it all into place. The cave terrain should be of height 0 at the edges. We put the same texture layers on the cave terrain as on the main terrain. Where the cave terrain runs over into the main terrain, the textures of both terrains are made equal. You can see that the entrance now looks very unnatural, but we can easily mask that by putting a few rock meshes in the entrance. Okay, finally we need to create some lights inside this cave because it's very dark. First let's create volumetric fog to make it look more nice. I've already done that. You can do that by adding an empty game object and then choosing local volumetric fog. You need to provide a texture. I've used this texture, which won't display now, but you can see it over here. It's just something I downloaded from internet. It's just a bit of light and darker areas. Texture that you could also use for smoke. And we can turn that into a 3D shape, and then we have our volumetric fog. You can set the dimensions by using these buttons. You can see that over here. You can make it smaller or bigger. I decided to create volumetric fog for all of the cave area. So now this is done, we can add some lights to our scene. I've already created a few prefabs for that, so let's use them. It's over here. I got this hanging lamp that we can use. Can put it on the ceiling somewhere. And I've also got this torch. This torch is just a downloaded object, but I've added some point light to it. And to that point light I've also added a script to make this light flicker. And as for the hanging lamp, it's also a model free downloaded from internet. and it also contains a script, a swing script, and this script makes the lamp swing around. And that's very nice. When you have some light swinging, you really see that it's lit at real time. Over here you can see the light flicker script. It has some parameters that you can set to make the light flicker in a different way. And then we have our basic loop that's just changing the intensity of the light. And this is the swing script. It's even more simple. It just makes an object swing because it's rotating around its X and Z axis, and we can change the amount of offset to make it like an elliptical shape that it swings in. So if you take a look at this light now, you can see that it's the same speed, but it's a different max angle. That means this light will swing in an elliptical way like this. Okay, let's see what our result is. Okay, I think it looks kind of cool. You can add even more lights inside the cave and position them a bit different or scale them a bit, but this looks like a nice cave. Note that we need to put the camera really close. Over here is the Cinemachine camera configuration, and the camera distance is set to 2, because otherwise if it's set to a very large value, the camera is distant, then you have effect like you can see over here, that you can see through the that the camera is outside of the cave. And I've tweaked the I've tweaked the lights a little bit. I scaled them and put them in a better position, and so now our cave is finished. One more thing I did is over here you can see these planes, because when they are just black, I've changed the scale and position of the lights a little bit, and I've added one more. So now the cave is very nicely lit. And this finishes our project. One more thing I did was, if you take a look at these planes over here, they are necessary. They're just black planes, and if I take them away, you can see that you can see through the terrain over here, because the camera is actually behind the terrain now. And that's what also happens when you use Cinemachine. He puts the camera away from the player a little bit at a distance, and at certain points you could see this stuff. So that's why I put these extra planes to make that go away. I can demonstrate it to you. So now we're gonna walk into our cave. You can see the swing script over here with the elliptical swing and the flickering of the light, And if I move closely to this side, you can see that the camera moves behind the terrain. And now it's very useful that we have over here our extra planes. If I disable them, you'll see that it looks like this. Not really professional, so that's one small thing I added. One more thing that I would like to point out, that if you have code that samples the height of the terrain, like over here, this is the enemy spawning script that puts the enemies on the terrain. This code is not gonna work anymore because we now have multiple terrains. So you need to iterate over all the terrains, and in this case I'm taking the terrain with the highest height. So for example, if you take this area, it has a mine, and if I sample the height at this position, this cave is in another position, so the height will be 0. The height of the terrain will be some value, but the height of the mine itself will be the highest value. So the enemies will be spawned over here on top of the cave. So that's one way to deal with that, and another way is that you make a reference to the main terrain if you want to use the main terrain in any case. You can see that over here I've created a reference to this main terrain, and inside my code over here I'm using it like this. That concludes the tutorial. Good luck on creating your own cave systems. By the way, this tutorial was created within my Western shooter Redneck Salvation. There's a link in the description for itch.io where you can download it for free. Take care and enjoy the summer.